everyone. Aloha. It's the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Jason Schwartz. Welcome to our show. Well, it is Monday, August 6th, 2023.
7th.
August 7th.
Yeah. Slips
See
by.
them, they keep slipping by. I'm glad that all you came to visit here today to the Neutral Zone. You can find all our shows at MauiNeutralZone.com. You can probably also find it if you look on YouTube and you put in Jason Schwartz Maui. You'll see all kinds of things come up. And you'll also be able to find us at akaku.org. They have a link to our show also. Now, the reason the show is called the Neutral Zone, it is anything but neutral, but I like to say we're a place where we can talk about anything, and we don't come in with a heavy hand. You know, if I have a guest, for example, if I had Donald Trump and I don't agree with him, I would still be here talking with him and not be very combative. Try to do it in a civil way. And let the audience make the decisions and choices on what they want, where they can hear a dialogue that isn't combative. We also are set up as a call-in talk show, so the second half of the show time, if you want to call in and talk about anything, including what we're doing with our guest, 808-873-3435. Now, you on radio cannot see that I have a man here that if you were to look at him, you would say, wow, how did you get this guy here to your show? Isn't that Steve Snyder? And it is Steve Snyder. Stephen, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Jason. Pleasure to be here.
You know, I had the good pleasure of meeting Stephen in a group that you've heard me talk about before, the Mankind Project, which is a little bit different in my sense than women who always get together and are talking. Men aren't so much getting together and talking about things and values, quite the same. And we like to think that after we are not here, that we have some kind of a pathway toward making our society better, to having something to contribute. And so we get all kinds of people that get involved. In fact, we have another, they call it a New Warrior Training Adventure, coming up later this year. So if any of you are interested, you can go to mankindproject.org and you can speak to, or you could speak to someone like me or some of the guests on our show. I mean, if I look at some of the names of the people that have been on our show, we've had all kinds of people, and a number of them recently in the last year have been, or maybe even a little bit more, have been out of the Mankind Project group. They have these things every week. They call them integrated groups, where you basically, after your weekend adventure of really diving deep into your world with a group of men, you get to keep that going on every week by staying in touch with each other. And it was just through that process that I met this gentleman, Steve Snyder, and said, boy, he's interesting. And then as I got to know over a little bit of time, I said, Steve Snyder, he has a book, doesn't he? He has a book called Focused Passion. And if I had my glasses on, I'd give you the subtitle, which is Become Better, Faster, Smarter, and Happier with Far Less Stress and Much More Passion. Doesn't that sound like something you'd like, something I'd like? Stephen is one of the world's foremost experts in learning and personal development, and actually, he's going to tell us more about it, but you travel all over the world and teach groups and actually CEOs of companies large and small and teach them some significant concepts, which we're going to share some of it today. So this show is a doorway into Focused Passion and Stephen Snyder. Stephen, again, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Jason. It is a pleasure to be here. I've always enjoyed doing radio and TV. It's lots of fun.
So now, when I look at you, I might say you're sort of like Clark Kent in that on first glance you're just a regular guy, but when you get up there on stage and with the subjects that you share, obviously you've shared them all over the world. How did that happen?
Well, I've been at this a really long time. I've actually worked in more than 100 countries.
Wow.
I've done over 7,000 seminars around the world in my life. I started when I was 15 years old and never really had a job. I invented a speed reading technique. When I was 12, I invented some techniques for studying and memory improvement and test taking and performance skills. Basically, how to be a great learner, And I started teaching that to kids, and I loved working with kids, but then I realized I'd be more powerful if I talked to school teachers because they talk to lots of kids. So I spent about a dozen years working with school teachers and realized what my great passion is the general overthrow of the school system. And school teachers really don't have the power to do that. So I started focusing on the people who do, the CEOs of the world. And I've been one of the number one speakers for the world's largest CEO organization, Vistage International. I've done more than 2,000 presentations for that organization over the last 30 years. Wow. And I teach CEOs living skills and learning skills, basically how to focus the mind, block out all distractions, and give 100% of the mind's power to the task at hand, and use it for peak performance and creativity and accelerated learning, and it's just how to be better, faster, smarter, and happier. It's really a powerful technique using the concept of mindfulness meditation, getting into the alpha brainwave state, out of the divided attention state into the focused state, total focused concentration, amplified passionate interest. It's the zone, the flow. Technically, it's a state where you're giving everything you've got to one thing, and when you do that, you do your best. So how to there's so many distractions in the world, but how to block those out and focus on only one thing at a time. That's really the key to greatness.
Wow. When I hear that focus on one thing, I had a friend who was a master at Kung Fu, and I said, how do you deal with multiple opponents? And he said, one at a time.
Yeah, it's one at a time, one breath at a time. It's really basically the breath is so important in the mind, and when you breathe shallow, your mind thinks you're in danger, and it looks out in every single direction, fight or flight. But when you take one slow, conscious, deep breath, that means paying attention to the breath in the moment, then your mind realizes there's no real danger out there, and it can fixate and focus on only just one thing. Breath is the core of it all. It starts with the one slow, conscious, deep breath, and that takes the brain out of stress into focused relaxation.
So when you go and teach CEOs, is it mostly one-on-one, or do you find yourself with a CEO and their group, or I guess it must be both?
Mostly groups of CEOs. The CEOs join this organization called Vistage, and they meet once a month with about a dozen to 20 other CEOs in non-competing businesses. So there's no two people in the same industry, and they spend half of a day talking to each other about their businesses and what they can do to solve their problems, and the other half of the day they bring a world-class speaker in to talk about a different subject, like sales or marketing, like hiring or firing, and my topic is the powers of the mind, how to use your mind most effectively.
I see. Wow. And when the CEOs use it, I guess you must be filled with all kinds of stories where CEOs are reporting back to you and telling you how it's been a major change.
That's been one of the joys of my life, is to know that I'm influencing influencers, that I'm teaching people who have the power to teach dozens, if not hundreds, of other people and their families as well. So yeah, it really feels like a very, very powerful thing, a gift that I'm giving them, to be able to focus their minds, to block out distractions, to handle stress. That's a big deal. When you're stressed out, it's really hard to perform at peak levels. But if you know how to release the stress, then all of a sudden your mind is like fixated not on survival but on growth. There's really only two basic programs in the human mind: survive and grow. So if you're not focused on survival, if you're not worried or anxious or nervous about survival, then your mind can give all its power to growing, to getting better, to improving.
And I'm only guessing, but I'm sure it's so, that when you get into the growth after being able to relax and get rid of that stress, like you say, your ability to focus, do you find that, well, I was going to say I was looking for an example already, but I can only imagine, like when I go into stress and I try to relax, I try to close my eyes and imagine a more subtle place where I don't have the distractions of everything. Any simple tips? I know that people reading your book or hearing you get a full dynamic delivery. When I originally thought about this, and I said, let's see, you were talking about an alpha state. Although I know what it is, I think. What is an alpha state? I mean, there are different states of being.
Yeah, there are four different brainwave states. And measured on the machine, the electroencephalograph, the EEG, has been around over 100 years. And basically, scientists divided the electrical conductivity of the brain waves, the electricity the brain's giving off, and divided into four categories. Delta is deep sleep, theta is light sleep, mostly dreaming states, alpha is focused on only one thing, and beta starts with divided attention and goes all the way up through panic, anxiety, confusion, and terror, and ultimately nervous breakdown. So there's four states: deep sleep, light sleep, paying attention, and divided attention. And most people spend most of their time in divided attention. They give about a whole bunch of things at the same time. But when you can bring it on down to thinking about only one thing, then your mind realizes there's no danger, and it realizes that it can give all of its thoughts and feelings, emotions and intellect, to whatever the task at hand is. So the alpha state is a state of greatness, of peak performance. It's a state of a chess master or a great athlete or any peak performance. And anybody who's great at anything is doing it because they're giving it their all. So the ability to master the alpha state, which is really easy to do, it's a natural state. Children live in the alpha state before they get all stressed out as teenagers. Most of the time they're just really focused on one thing at a time. So learning how to do that as an adult, how to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and find a place inside of your mind where you feel peaceful, where you feel safe and calm and quiet and relaxed, and just practicing with that place over and over and over again, so it gets to be like second nature. You just can go there, just close your eyes and you go there, and you do that before anything important. You take your mind off of everything else you've been thinking about and bring it down to that place, and then from that place, that focused passion you have in that place, you can bring your mind to whatever the next task at hand is, and you can be great.
I see. Well, when I remember there was a guy named Silva.
Jose Silva, one of my earliest mentors.
Right. I was going to say, along that same line, is it?
Indeed. Jose was basically just a worker, a Mexican worker, and he was concerned about his kids learning in school, and so he thought about it, read about it, and came up with this concept that he called Silva mind control. It's been around since the 60s. It's really great, and I study that. I've even taught it a little bit back in the 80s, and it's very similar to the kind of stuff that I teach. He taught it for children. Now it's focused more on adults, primarily CEOs, but it's the same basic concept. It's about getting into that alpha state and using that state to enhance your life.
I don't know how important it is to choose one place.
It is important to choose one place.
And then stay with it.
Yeah, because then you create a greater habit. Now, once you've gone to that place for a few moments, then you can go somewhere else. But you want to have a front door. You go in the same way every single time. So it becomes habitual, becomes inculcated as a natural part of the brain, and you're used to doing it. So your place can evolve. Like my place that I came up with when I was like 8 years old is like a beautiful meadow, a kind of a memory of Yosemite National Park, a beautiful meadow with a babbling brook and these 3 deer that came out of the woods to drink out of the babbling brook. Because as soon as the 3 deer got there, I realized I'm safe, because if there were any danger, the deer would have run away. So I always go to that safe, beautiful place. And I've been doing it since I was 8 years old, and I'm 71, so quite a long time. But when I moved to Maui back in 2005, I thought, oh, Maui, this is a beautiful, amazing place. And I realized, but I had 50 years invested in that meadow, so I wasn't going to give that up. So I added to my meadow a rainbow over the meadow, which signifies Maui for me. So your place can grow and evolve, but basically you want to pick a place and keep going back to that same place a bunch of times every day, so it becomes so easy to get there, and it takes your mind off of everything else, and you're totally there. And then from that state, you can bring it to whatever else you want to do next.
Well, I remember that as I was beginning reading your book, and you started by sharing with us about how to get into that state, and then also you were focusing using it on reading technique.
That was where it began for me. I was a child prodigy. I learned to read when I was 2. By the time I was going into first grade, I read 1,400 books.
Wow.
I currently read 20 books a week. I still read a lot. But when I went to school, the teacher didn't know what to do with me. I was the only kid in first grade that knew how to read. So they stuck me in the corner and said, you read while I teach them. And I realized that my mind works different than the other kids' minds. And I started to get fascinated with the nature of the mind. And ever since then, that's been my favorite topic, is understanding the human mind. And I've studied it and read about it. And when I was about 15 years old, I started teaching this accelerated reading technique. I came up with this idea of training the mind through the alpha brainwave state to read groups of words at a time instead of one word at a time. And if your eyes are moving at the same speed as they usually did, but you're reading 3 or 4 words each time you're looking, you're reading 3 or 4 times faster. And all of a sudden reading's so much better because your mind doesn't wander. The reason people's mind wanders is because they think fast, but they read slow. And so there's not enough to keep their mind interested. But if you're reading a bunch of words at a time, all of a sudden there's much more coming in quickly, and it's enough to keep your mind occupied, and so your mind doesn't wander, and you read so much faster and so much better.
And you don't find you're missing the detail?
Not at all. In fact, you're getting the detail much more. When you read, like, the phrase "in the house," what happens is your mind looks at the word "in" and said, "What's a in?" Oh, it's the opposite of "out." And then what's a "the"? I don't know. Nobody knows what "the" means. It means proceed to next noun. And then you look at the word "house" and you get a picture of the outside of a house before the brain correlates the data, puts it together, and gets it "in the house." Mm-hmm. So if you read "in the house" all at once, you instantly get inside the house. So the comprehension's even better because you don't have to go through what's an in, what's a the, what's a house before you get to what's an in the house. So it really enhances comprehension dramatically.
So all these different reading techniques that over the years we've heard, you were there.
Yeah, I invented this in 1964. Many of the techniques were skimming techniques or scanning techniques, where you're moving your fingers, or you're
like an Evelyn Wood kind of
deal. And that's really good for getting the gist, to getting the essence of what you're reading, but it's not really good for getting full comprehension, because people do skip and skim over things when they read that way. The technique I'm talking about, you read every single word. You're just reading them several at a time.
Wow. As I'm beginning to try to embrace your process, I'm finding I'm wondering whether I'm yet in that alpha state. I wonder how do these steps grow in me? Do you spend a lot of time building that state of relaxation before you get into the reading techniques?
It is essential to do that. It doesn't take a lot of time to get really good at going to the alpha state. It's a natural state. Usually just closing your eyes is enough to get into the alpha state, because of all the input that comes in through the 5 senses, 86% is visual. So when you close your eyes, you cut sensory input down from 100% to 14%. That's enough to slow down your brain. Now, closing your eyes and taking a slow, conscious, deep breath, that's almost guaranteed to get you into the alpha state. And then closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and imagining yourself someplace quiet and peaceful and safe, that's for sure enough. It's easy to get to the alpha state. Most people use alpha primarily to space out, to daydream, to look at the clouds or the stars, or to listen to music, and nothing wrong with that. But the focus of my program is to use the same state to space into peak performance and creativity and accelerated learning, and just how to be the best you can be.
Wow. I imagine that this is something that everyone should be embracing.
Well, I don't tend to should on people, but I think anyone could do this, and most people would benefit from it for sure.
Yeah. And although it is I like books that are nice and thin.
Yeah, it's not...
Because you don't have to waste a lot of words, and you say it. I can tell just in the way you speak. You take the whole concept, and you gave us the whole concept in a flash. And I thought, oh, we got a whole hour. Now I got to take it, stretch it.
Well, there's a lot to cover for sure. But the essence of it is pretty simple, and that is focus your mind and get good at focusing your mind, and so that you can take that focused mind and do whatever it is you want to do with it. And for most people, that means enhancing the quality of their life, being better parents, being better partners with their spouse, being better employees, or better employers, in the case of the CEOs I work with. It's taking the aspects of your life that matter to you the most and being able to do those in a state where you can be the best you can be, where you can give 100% of your mind, where you're not worried about other things at that moment. The other things will come up, that you'll be worried about life. Everybody does. But you don't have to be worried all the time. And when it's time to do something that matters, like have that important conversation with your spouse, or discipline your kid, or make that sale, or whatever it is, when it matters, at that moment you don't want to be having those other things going on in your mind. At that moment you want to be able to move into this focused passion state.
I see. Well, I'm almost curious. Almost curious. How do you be almost curious? When I was reading the book, I was intrigued because you really give us almost like a blow-by-blow, step-by-step deepening as we go. I mean, just reading and learning, the alpha exercise, gaining confidence, breaking habits, releasing stress. And there's a whole section in the book that where you have... Now, I guess he wanted me to be in front of the microphone. Okay. There's a whole section where it's almost like different subjects, and you take us through the introduction into different areas of our life that we might be able to employ this.
Right. It's one tool, but lots of different applications. And as you mentioned, sometimes things like gaining confidence, some people need that more than others. Some people are overconfident, so they may not need that. Releasing stress, most people need that one. Most people are definitely too stressed, especially in those moments where the pressure's on and the game's on the line, so to speak. But my passion is helping people just have a more higher quality of their life, and that really is up to them as to what application they want to use, what they want to focus on in this. I've got lots and lots of information on this stuff. In fact, I have one of the largest websites of free self-improvement programs in the world. The website is pen.tools. No .com or .net. It's .tools, pen.tools. There's over 250 free self-improvement programs on 250 different topics, Wow. Virtually every subject I could think of that will help people. And they all start with me guiding them into the alpha brainwave state. Every single one of them starts with alpha. And then we talk about how to... I have a partner for my radio show that I did for many years. He and I talk about how to use this area of their life, how to improve. And then we finish with a guided meditation. We take them into the alpha state, guide them in, and have them imagine themselves being whatever it is that they want to be, imagine themselves being better at whatever it was that they're focusing on. So there's lots and lots of information out there at pen.tools, and of course the book Focused Passion is available on Amazon, and there's just a lot of good information about a lot of applications, but it really comes down to just that one tool, and that one tool is getting out of stress and into focused passion.
Right. I was just going to say, it boils down to that one thing.
It does.
Yeah.
What was that, a City Slickers movie where the guy said, it's about one thing.
That's right.
It's all about one thing. What's the one thing? That's up for you to decide, but it's all about one thing.
Yeah. Well, I am going to concentrate for just a second, and we have sponsors for our show here. I'm just looking here. Want to maybe put a few up in the thing. I want to make sure our listeners know, if you want to call, you're most welcome. 808-873-3435. We're on KAKU with Steve Snyder, a global speaker and also a writer of a great book called Focused Passion. Become better, faster, smarter, and happier with far less stress and much more passion. So let's give word to our sponsors. If I find it. If I don't find it, there it is.
Aloha, I'm Noelle Lowe. Today on the Maui Daily, we get the latest in local government in the County Council wrap-up. We learn a new word in Olelo, Hawaii with Kumu Maili. And we talk to the DLNR's Jason Radula about the Doe Care Academy. See it live on the Maui Daily today at 5 p.m. with replays at 7, 10, and midnight on Akaku Blue, Channel 55. Streaming at akaku.org or download the free Maui Stream app.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
All Maui, all the time, anywhere you go. Maui Stream for Maui lovers. An all-new mobile app for your phone. Watch Maui's community channels live in HD. Find your favorite programs with custom playlists. Submit your own videos. Listen to KAKU 88.5. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. Maui Stream. 3 islands, 1 stream.
Aloha folks, this is Hamish Burgess and I host the Maui Celtic Radio Show on Sundays on KAKU 88.5, the voice of Maui. 2 hours of great Celtic music, from fun jigs and reels to lovely ballads to funky Celtic rock. That's Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. and repeats in the afternoon, 5 to 7 p.m. There you go, a bit of Celtic music for you on Maui. Tune in Sunday. Talk to you then. Cheers, my dears.
Hi, I'm Vince Fodi, co-host of the Biscuits and Gravy Show. KAKU is a listener-supported station. This means that all of the great programs you hear, like mine, are supported by you as well as our underwriters. If you would like to help keep the voice of Maui talking loud and clear, go to kakufm.org/donate today and give. And don't miss the Biscuits and Gravy Show, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. on 88.5 FM, the voice of gravy.
We are back here at the Neutral Zone, MauiNeutralZone.com. We're at 88.5 FM, KAKU Radio, and on Channel 55, which is Maui Community Media. I used to say Maui Community TV, but now in this age of internet, we are in a period, I like to say, I heard someone say it yesterday, that our phones and all the media is a method of mass distraction. You know, it's like
it is.
Instead of focusing, we have so much input from all over. With the different kinds of ways to apply this, maybe we can jump into some of them and have you kind of explore with us some of those subjects.
Sure.
Why don't we start with happiness? Is there such a way to start with happiness?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorite topics, actually. And the core to understanding the nature of happiness is that if you're feeling endangered, that you're worried or nervous or anxious or afraid of something, you can't be happy, because survival is much more powerful. Survival overtakes everything. So unless you're feeling safe, you can't be happy. So that's the core of starting to create happiness in your life, is feeling safe. And there's two aspects to feeling safe. One is to deal with the acute stress you experience in your life, and the other is to deal with the chronic stress you experience in your life. The acute stress is the way you react to danger. You go, You tighten your muscles and hold your breath. You get ready for fight or flight. Now, that comes when there's real danger, like if you're driving down the highway and the guy in front of you slams on his brakes, that's real danger, and your right foot's on the brake pedal before you can have time to think, you react to danger, real danger, automatically. But the vast majority of what stresses us out is not real danger. It's imaginary danger. It comes from worry, mostly, also from regret, remorse, embarrassment, shame from the past, but mostly it's worry stuff. And so when people are worried and they react to that worry as if it's actually happening, they tighten their muscles and hold their breath, then they can't be happy. So the secret is to train your mind to respond, not react, but respond to worry thoughts in a positive way instead of a negative way. Worry thoughts are not dangerous. Worry thoughts are an alert to something that could happen in the future, and you want to have them because if you didn't worry, you'd be blindsided by every bad thing that ever happened. So you want to worry. What you don't want to do is react to the worry as if it's actually dangerous right now. So if you can train your mind, and it's easy to do this actually, train your mind to respond to worry thoughts by, instead of tightening your muscles and holding your breath, by responding by letting go of your muscle tension and releasing your breath. If you do that, then your brain knows you're safe. Because if you weren't safe, you'd be getting ready to run or hit. But if you can let go, then your brain goes, oh, well, I can't possibly be in any real danger because I'm not getting ready to run or hit. So training the mind to respond to worry thoughts by taking a deep breath instead of holding your breath is the first step to happiness. That deals with the acute form of stress. The second kind of stress we deal with is the chronic stress, the build-up stress, the stress that comes from everything, traffic and deadlines and stupid people and war and taxes and stupid people, mostly stupid people. The way we react to that stuff by our stress building and building and building and building, what we need to do is every now and then, once an hour maybe, take a little mini vacation from it and close your eyes and take a deep breath and go to that peaceful place in your mind and stay there for like 20 seconds, enough time for the body to relax and the breathing to slow down and the mind to calm down and quiet down a bit, and like let the stress out of the balloon, so to speak, let the air out of the balloon, and then come back to your normal day and just start building stress again. But you're building from empty instead of from halfway full. So those two techniques, letting go of the stress of the course of the day by taking little mini vacations, and also by monitoring your thoughts, becoming mindful of your thoughts, and when you have a worry thought, notice you're having a worry thought and take a deep breath and release it. With that, you can begin to feel safe. Now, once you feel safe, there are 6 different pathways to happiness that I've illuminated in my life that I use. And any one of the 6 works, or all 6 of them work, but let me lay those out. Sure. So it starts with, after feeling safe, love and kindness. Love, being loved, being loving, being lovable. Those are wonderful feelings that bring a lot of happiness. And although many people misunderstand the nature of love, like some people really think that if you love me, I'm feeling your love. I can't feel your love. Your love's inside your body. What I'm feeling is my love for me resonating in harmony to you loving me. So we can only feel our own love. So my favorite line I ever wrote, all love flows through your own love for you. So it comes down to you loving yourself, self-esteem, self-respect, self-worth, that sort of stuff. So with that, loving yourself, every time someone loves you, you feel that resonate inside of yourself. And you have that to resonate inside of other people. And then, of course, the great expression of love to me is kindness. That's the sweetest thing you can do, It's almost like instant karma. Be kind to people and it comes right back to you. Dalai Lama said, whenever possible, be kind, and it's always possible, So even to people you don't like, you don't have to be mean to anybody. You can always be kind. So love and kindness. The next one's the easy one. If you want an instant happiness, just instant happiness, gratitude and appreciation just brings instant happiness. And so many people forget that. They forget to be grateful. They forget to appreciate things. I have a wonderful habit of appreciating things twice. If I see something I really like, I stop and I really like it a second time. I double my pleasure kind of thing. And because negative thoughts are so much more powerful than positive thoughts, because negative thoughts are about survival and positive thoughts are only about growth. So survival thoughts are powerful. So negative thoughts have to be replaced by several positive thoughts to make up for it. So gratitude and appreciation is an easy form of feeling happy. The hardest really hard, but it's a lot of work, but it's really worth it. It takes constant vigilance, is optimism and positive thinking. There's so much negativity out there. It's really, really challenging to be an optimist. You know, the world looks pretty bleak a lot of times. But what we can do is not ignore it, because if you ignore it, it builds up and comes back at you, is pay attention to the bad stuff and then take that deep breath, and then in your mind fill the gap that you just made with good stuff. And so you have to be constantly on the alert by noticing all the bad stuff, but taking it in, releasing it, and then filling your mind with good stuff. It takes a lot of work to be an optimist. It became much harder with COVID and Trump. To me, those two things together really made it hard to be an optimist. But I've done it. I'm proud of myself, and I'm still doing it. Every single day, I work really, really diligently at staying to be keeping optimism alive.
Through meditation, getting into an alpha state?
Yeah, always that, but also noticing the negativity. I don't ignore it. I watch the news. I pay attention to what's going on out there, but then I take a deep breath, which lets my mind know I'm not in real danger right now. And then I start thinking positive stuff. I start filling in with good things and positive outcomes and imagining better things happening and experiencing the love I have in my life and appreciating things.
So when I keep, I myself, I'm conscious of wanting to be positive, but I feel that negative, it almost like keeps coming at you. I bet more than 20 seconds an hour would probably be, or you do it as many times as you need to do it.
That's right. Whenever something negative comes in, pay attention to it. Take a deep breath. Whenever you take a deep breath, your brain knows you're not in real danger. That's a big deal. Because when you take that negative stuff in and you breathe shallow or makes you hold your breath or breathe shallow, your brain is going to think this could be really dangerous right now. So I got to get ready to fight or flight. I got to get ready to run or hit. But if you take a deep breath, your brain knows it's not really dangerous right now, and it lets go some of that fear, not all of it, but some of it, and then that makes some space inside of your mind for putting in some positive stuff. So that's where the vigilance comes. That's where the diligence comes. You got to keep paying attention to that negative stuff, releasing some of it, and filling in the empty space with positive stuff. You just try and make a balance of it. It'll never be all negative. It'll never be all positive. But for many people, it's mostly negative. And for some of us, it's mostly positive. And that's what we try to do.
I don't know if this is part of this or not, but what about the fact that many times we live in a world where not as many people as you or I might like employ not only these techniques, but employ the idea of being positive and being kind and being grateful. It's been a bit elusive, at least in the media. It seems like the media likes to report things that cause us, I don't know, maybe that they find it more interesting or something.
Well, it sells newspapers and it sells radio ads and stuff. I mean, dog bites man will sell more than dog licks man. People just are attracted to hearing about negative stuff. I think it's because part of the brain knows that survival is dependent upon understanding the bad stuff. And the only thing that comes from understanding the good stuff is you get better. Well, that's not as big a deal as survival. Survival's a much bigger deal. So we're attracted to negative stuff, and ignoring it doesn't help because it just, builds up and then it explodes. So you got to pay attention to the negative stuff. But again, it's addressing that negativity by taking a deep breath. I can't emphasize how important that one deep breath is in dealing with emotional stuff. When stuff comes in, it's your brain is thinking, is this dangerous or is it not? If you breathe shallow, it thinks it is dangerous. If you breathe deeply, it knows it's not dangerous. It's a big difference. So by paying attention to the negative stuff, and there's a lot of it, there's more of it than there is positive stuff, it's true, by paying attention to it, and then but there's lots of positive stuff, plenty of positive stuff, lots of beautiful trees out there that you can love, lots of beautiful clouds in the sky. You can always find, and lots of beautiful people too. You can always find things to appreciate and to love. So it's hard work, but it's doable to be an optimist. So that's a difficult kind of way to be happy, but it works. It works really well. Beyond that, if you can find your purpose in life, that's a real powerful happiness inducer. If you know what universe or God or whatever put you on the earth to do, and you found that and you're doing it, that just brings so much joy and happiness. But even if you can't find that in your life, if you can find something that you love and do that brings a lot of joy and happiness too. It's people who are aimless and purposeless and just can't find their way. They don't know what they want that are the most unhappy people. Happiness comes from moving toward getting what you want. And if you don't know what you want, it's really hard to be happy. So knowing what you want, finding something that you love, that's a really big deal. And then optimum health and wellness is another key to happiness. Not that you can't be happy if you're not healthy, but it's sure a whole lot easier if you are. So
I would think.
So those are my basic ideas of pursuing happiness in your life. Start by feeling safe, by monitoring your mind and noticing when those negative thoughts come in, and take that deep breath and release them, and then put some positive thoughts in there. Pay attention to the fact that your stress builds up during the course of the day, and once in a while during the day, take a little 20-second or 30-second mini vacation and let the excess stress fade away, and then come back sort of refreshed, and then love and kindness, and then, gratitude and appreciation is the easy one. Optimism is the hard one, but it's worth it. And then finding your purpose or finding something else, and then optimum health and wellness. To me, those are my keys to happiness.
Well, those are really very powerful.
They are.
Yeah, and I always have wondered about myself over the years. Like, I have a short attention span because I jump from this to that to this to that, but the technique of slowing down, taking that breath, and getting myself into this alpha state is something I've been working on.
That's excellent. And there's nothing wrong with a short attention span, especially if you can put them back to back to back. You have a short attention span, take a little 5-second break in the alpha state and go to your peaceful place, and then come back and do another minute or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever your attention span is. And then, short attention span, it's a great thing if you can put them back to back. If you every few moments go off to something else, you never get anything done. So you do need to get stuff done, and so that means that you have to put your attention spans next to each other. But you don't have to pay attention for a long time. It's great if you can, but it's not a big deterrent if you can't. It's a matter of whatever you are paying attention, pay attention to what matters.
And you get to go on a lot more vacations.
Yeah, indeed. The mind loves these mini vacations.
Yeah. I can imagine after all these years, your place that you've created for yourself is very well developed. Does it change much, or you guess you get to be a deeper and deeper experience?
Well, both of those are true. It never really changed in that it's always this meadow with this babbling brook and these 3 deer, but sometimes it's wintertime and it's covered with snow, and sometimes it's springtime and the flowers are blooming, and sometimes it's midnight and the Milky Way is gleaming, and so I never know where the shadows will be or what season it is or what time of day it'll be. It's always a little different. It kind of surprises me each time, but it's always that same place. I never have to think, what place am I going to go to this time? I always go to that same place, but sometimes, usually actually, it's daytime and the rainbow is overhead, but sometimes it's midnight. Sometimes it's the middle of the night. So I never really know exactly what's going to happen, but I always know it's going to be a meadow with a beautiful babbling brook and those wonderful deer.
Well, happiness. So let's pick another subject. We'll let you choose another.
How about how to have a great marriage?
That's a good one.
This is something that I care a lot about. I've been married for 24 years. I was 47 before I got married, so I was a bachelor a long time. And I really appreciate the fact that I found this wonderful woman, and we've been able to be together. Well, she actually helped me create this program on how to have a great marriage, how to have an alpha marriage. We call it basically how to live alpha à deux. That's French for alpha for two kind of thing. And so we came up with 4 guidelines for a great marriage, and they're pretty simple, but they're really powerful if you use them right. The first one we call compassionate honesty, and it means you always tell your spouse the truth, because whenever you lie, you don't feel safe. That's what lie detectors measure. They don't measure lies. They measure people feeling unsafe telling them. So when you lie, you get stressed out, and then you're in beta, not alpha, and you're thinking about a whole bunch of, and you're always worried about getting caught in the lie, and that, you get all kinds of bad things will happen. So I don't lie. I always tell the truth. But that being said, there's a great songwriter, Paul Simon, who said, just give me some tenderness beneath your honesty. Because, honesty can be mean. It can be cruel and hard and cutting. So we call it compassionate honesty. It's like being nice as well as being honest. And what my wife and I do is we find like the right time and the right place to bring up stuff. Usually I can let the little things go and I don't sweat the small stuff. But if there's anything big that I need to, tell her about, I'll wait until the right time. And what we did is we set up a time where we're both ready to talk about hard stuff, and it's like issue time kind of thing. So we wait, and most things can wait. They don't have to be right this minute, So when things are going smooth and good, then, sweetheart, I got something I need to talk to you about. This is my problem, not yours, but I need to, and we do it as gently and lovingly as possible. So compassion and honesty is the number one. Number two, and this has really served us extremely well, is that whenever we disagree, and, that happens a lot in a marriage, usually because you marry somebody totally different than you, whenever we disagree, we have a thing that basically whoever it's more important to gets to decide. So we don't fight or argue. We just say, how important is this to you on a 1 to 10? And she goes, well, it's a 7. Well, it's only a 3 to me. You decide. No fighting, no discussion, no arguing. It's more important to her than it is to me. She decides. More important to me than it is to her. I decide. And almost always, when I have a high number, she has a low number. And when she has a high number, I have a low number. Almost always. So we really never fight. We don't even discuss or argue. It's just whoever's more important to gets to decide. In the event of a tie, we've actually never had one, but we have a plan because it could happen. Well, actually, we're on our second plan. Our original plan, kind of stupid. I got excited about a notion. I'm a big college basketball fan. I went to UCLA when Bill Walton did. We lost 2 games in 4 years, so it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Well, in college basketball, when the ball goes out of bounds or whatever, they don't have a jump ball like they do in the pros. They have this team gets it first, and this team gets it next, and this team gets it next. So I thought that sounded so fair. So she gets the first tie, I get the second tie. She gets the third tie. That seemed so fair. And then I thought for a minute, I go, wait a minute, what if it's really important to her and it's my turn? That would be kind of a disaster. So let's not do that. I came up with a better way of dealing with ties. She loves this way. I basically decide if we ever have a tie, she gets all the ties. Works great. And the reason is that I'm an optimist and she's a recovering pessimist. So optimists are way better at getting over not getting what they want because they set high goals and they don't always get what they want. Pessimists, on the other hand, set very low goals. They don't expect very much, and they usually get what they want, which is that it won't work. But so it's harder for a pessimist to get over not getting what they want. So let the less optimistic one have the ties. That's sort of the rule. So number 3, this one's fun. Every day, close your eyes and take a deep breath and go to that peaceful place and take a couple of minutes and imagine that you are your partner. Like step into them and be them for a couple minutes and like walk a mile in their shoes kind of thing. And imagine like if you were them, what would you want? What would you need? And then wake up and give them what they want or what they need, what you think they want or need before they even have to ask. And it's kind of like empathy. It's like pretending you're them and understanding how they feel. And can't do that very well with people you don't know, but with your spouse, you can do it, and you can learn from your mistakes and get really pretty good at it over the years. So right now, I every day pretty much I imagine I'm Teresa, and what would she want, what would she need, and then I wake up and give her that as best as I can, and she does the same for me. So it's kind of cool.
And it goes back to that gratitude and kindness thing.
It does. It very much does.
That if you have it in your being to be kind,
that's so cool.
To be gentle. It makes relationships, where you're very conscious.
Yeah.
Like you say, give her the ties and realize the value in that giving. And that just brings up your whole attitude and be grateful that you have the room to be able to do that.
That's so true. In fact, the way I define a bad marriage is you don't like each other. A good marriage is where you like each other, but when you disagree, you get mean. And a great marriage is where you're always kind. So it's pretty simple. And the fourth and final way of sharing, of creating a great marriage, is to give them the kind of love they want, not just the kind of love you want. There's a great book called The 5 Love Languages. I highly recommend it. Wonderful book. And the author, Gary Chapman, delineates 5 basic ways we can share love, affection, attention, and appreciation. And they're words of appreciation, words of love, acts of service, that's doing something nice for them they haven't asked you to do, the above and beyond kind of stuff. Same with gifts, not just the obligatory birthday, anniversary, but gifts for no reason kind of gifts. Quality time, not just time, but quality time, and touch, sexual and non-sexual touch. So what I discovered, I love the words. So when I met Teresa, she was telling me how kind I am and how smart I am, and it was wonderful. It's just wonderful. And then I started telling her how brilliant she was and how beautiful she was, and it was like water off a duck's back. It was like she'd say, Steve, talk's cheap. That doesn't mean crap. You got to do stuff. She needed acts of service. She needed me to do things for her to make her feel loved. So like I'd put a pitcher of water on her bedside table when I noticed it wasn't full, and I'd pick up her briefcase and put it in her office for her. And, things like the little things she didn't ask me to do, but that was a big deal to her. If she'd have picked up my briefcase and moved it, I'd have been pissed off because, like, what do you move my damn briefcase? But we're real different that way. So there's words, there's acts of service, there's gifts. Some people really, really love getting gifts. Other people, it's not a big deal. Quality time, meaning not just being together, but actually interacting and being together. And finally, touch. Like I wasn't raised with parents that touched each other in front of us. They'd go to the bedroom for that. And so I thought that's the way it's supposed to be. So here I am, like 20 years old, and I'm starting to date, and I'm not being affectionate with the girlfriends until we get in the bedroom. But, if you're not being affectionate, you don't get in the bedroom. So I was like, realizing that touch is really important to my wife. And so when I walk up to her, I stroke her on the cheek. When I walk behind her, I kiss her on the back of the neck. When I sit down next to her, I stroke her leg, hold her hand when we walk. That's a real big deal to her. So finding the kind of love, I love the words and I love the gifts. She loves the acts and she loves the touch. So finding the kind of love that works for your partner. So those are the 4 basic techniques. Compassionate honesty. Whoever it's more important to gets to decide. Imagine being them and give them what you get they need, and then give them the kind of love that works best for them. That's how to have a great marriage.
I'm going to change the subject. We got a few minutes left, but I'm just going to change the subject a little bit. This clearly, I feel your passion with what you're doing. You couldn't be doing this for all this time.
55 years.
55 years. Wow. Do you? What do you do when you're not in this? I happen to know you have I'll let you tell. You have a farm out here in Maui.
I do. I have 2 homes in Maui now. Since 2005, we had this beautiful 70-acre tropical fruit farm in Lower Nahiku, just before Hana, on the North Shore, and we raise all kinds of things. We actually have the largest durian farm. A lot of people don't even know what that is, but it's pretty cool. It's the king of fruits. We have mangosteen, which is the queen of fruits, and lots of citrus and avocados and bananas and all those kind of great. It's really beautiful and wonderful. I had no idea I'd grow up to be a farmer. It didn't occur to me ever. But it's wonderful, and we lived there until full-time until a couple of years ago. My wife was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she's doing pretty good, but the doctor suggested that she needs more mental stimulation. So we bought a really beautiful home out in Wailea, with some guest rooms, and now we have relatives and friends come from the mainland and visit her and us, and have conversations and stimulate her mind more. And we can go to restaurants all the time. In Lower Nahiku, the closest restaurant's an hour and a half away, pretty much. So it's really much more stimulating for her. So we're splitting time between the 2 locations, and I spend. We have 2 beautiful golden retrievers as well that we spend a lot of time with. But for me, I spend most of my time that I'm not with her reading. I read a lot, and I love reading all kinds of different things, and so that's just really my escape and my passion is reading.
Any good books you've read recently we should know about?
Oh gosh, so many. It really depends on the genre or the topic. I hesitate. I always go back to, if you love science fiction, there's maybe the best science fiction book, or my favorite science fiction book. It's an older book. It's in the 60s, but it's called Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein. And it's about this guy who essentially lives forever. And it's sort of the story of his lives, as he ages and gets to the point where he can't stay in the same place anymore because people are wondering why he's not dying. And so he has to change his identity and go to a new place and change his identity. And it's just a fascinating story. Same author that wrote Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein's a wonderful author. The Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov is another great science fiction book.
The old science fiction.
I love that stuff. Biographies, I really, really enjoy Einstein, and the one on Steve Jobs was really, really good. I love mysteries. The old Nero Wolfe series, the Sherlock Holmes books. Gosh, there's so many great books. Wow. In the back of my book is my 100 favorite books.
Oh, so there's another reason to pick it up. But I tell you, this book, I'm taking it slow and in bites, like I said. Yeah. And I've really been enjoying it and growing along the way. I feel like you say, first I kind of skim it, take a look at the territory, and then I can go back and really dive in. I think we should mention the title again so people can easily find Focused Passion by Steven Snyder. And Focused Passion, becoming better, faster, smarter, and happier with far less stress and much more passion. You are really... you mentioned about your positivity. That is what I've noticed about you when we're there in the group. You seem to just be a very positive spirit. No matter what's going on, you seem to just put out this very positive vibe.
Well, I appreciate that. I am an optimist, and I work diligently at it to become an optimist. I don't avoid the negative aspects of the world. I embrace them and release them. I work through them as best I can. But, on my radio show, I did with a friend of mine for many years. We had lots of guests, too, and I always remember a guest he had, Timothy Leary. And, what a guy. And he said, Timothy, are you an optimist? And Timothy said, what choice do I have? And that's what I've followed.
Well, we are out of time. I'm really amazed. We went through that hour quickly, Stephen.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you come back again.
Thank you, Jason. I'd be happy to.
And all our audience, thank you for joining us as well. Aloha.
Aloha.